Call this meeting to order at 7:01. Can I get a roll call, please?
Student trustee Cho. Student trustee Uribe. Trustee Tahada. Here. Trustee Lee.
Here.
Vice President Gallegos.
Here.
President Slahuddin.
Here. Thank you. 1 second. Unless there are any changes, there are no changes to the agenda, Superintendent Presta.
There are no changes.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Unless there are any changes, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of October 15th, November 2nd, and November 14th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The board met in closed session and we have nothing to report out. And so now I'm moving on to our recommendations and recognitions and commendations, excuse me. And our first one and only is our November Student of the Month from Jefferson High School, and I will turn it over to Principal Harrigan.
Good evening. This is my first time presenting at this podium. It's more
Well,
stressful
welcome.
than the old table on the side. Okay, this is more official. Okay, good evening. Jefferson High School is proud to present Evelyn Carrillas, a 12th grade student who has earned unreserved respect and admiration from her peers, teachers, and staff. Tonight, we honor her as the JUHSD Student of the Month for her outstanding achievement and exceptional contributions to our school and community. Evelyn has been an incredible leader in our Unity Day program, which challenges students to reflect on stereotypes and actions while promoting understanding and unity. From the start, Evelyn embraced this role with enthusiasm and compassion. She even stepped into
That's okay.
in Spanish during activities like Cross the Line, ensuring that all students could participate fully. Her efforts helped create a more inclusive and supportive environment for everyone involved. Evelyn's impact extends far beyond Unity Day. She has been a driving force behind many school events and initiatives. She worked with the PTSA to create and lead a beautiful Dia de los Muertos celebration, sharing her culture and bringing our community closer together. She holds leadership positions in several clubs, including as president of Paseo Club and also our Faith in Action Youth Club, and is an active member of Voces Unidas. Additionally, Evelyn serves as a student trustee, representing her peers with grace and thoughtfulness at the district level. What makes Evelyn's story truly remarkable is her journey. She immigrated to the United States at just 14 years old, facing challenges such as a language barrier and the transition to a new country. Through determination and hard work, she became English proficient in just 2 years, a remarkable achievement that reflects her resilience and dedication. Despite the obstacles, she has excelled academically, taking on rigorous courses like AP Language and Composition, and demonstrating her intelligence, curiosity, and willingness to take risks. Evelyn is also part of Jefferson High School's first Future Grads cohort, which will celebrate its inaugural graduates this May. As her mentor, I have had the privilege of guiding Evelyn through the college admission process and will continue to support her as she pursues her dream of studying psychology in college. Her commitment to helping others and her passion for learning will undoubtedly lead her to success in her chosen field. In addition to her academic and leadership accomplishments, Evelyn is a talented performer. As a lead dancer in Mission Fusion, she has dedicated countless hours to rehearsing, choreographing, and performing, all while maintaining a stellar GPA. Her love for the arts extends beyond school as she had joined Grupo Maiz, a Salvadoran folklore dance group, and Rising Rhythm in San Francisco, sharing her culture and passion for dance with broader communities. What stands out most about Evelyn is her unwavering dedication to others. She works tirelessly to support our English language learners, ensuring they are not only informed about school activities, but also active participants in our community. She often goes out of her way to be a friendly face and a source of encouragement for her peers, leaving a lasting impact on everyone she meets. On behalf of the staff and students at Jeff, we are immensely proud of Evelyn and deeply grateful to her mother for trusting us to be part of her journey. Evelyn has made our school stronger, more inclusive, and more vibrant. She is truly one of a kind, and we are all excited to see the bright future that lies ahead for her. Congratulations, Evelyn, on this well-deserved honor. Thank you for inspiring us all with your dedication, compassion, and perseverance. You are an exceptional leader, student, and role model, and we are so proud that you are part of Jefferson.
All right. So do you want to say anything? Yes.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Harrigan, for all those beautiful words. It's really an honor for me to be here, and it just shows how worth it was, like all the work that I've been doing throughout high school, how it was hard, because I'm not gonna lie, like just coming here, changing countries, learning a new language, having to socialize and start again, you know. But I just love seeing how people see my work, see what I do, and how I can help others and just help the community. So I want to thank Mr. Harrigan, of course, my mom, my family, my friends, everyone that has been always there for me, supporting me, and all of you guys, because I'm a student trustee, I'm part of the school board. I know you guys see me, and it's an honor for me to have a word. It's an honor for me to have the opportunity to speak out and be the voice for those people that don't have a voice. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, and it's really an honor for me to be here. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, stay right there. Because we're going to open up and we're going to say really nice things about you for a little while. So hold on. I'm going to start with our student trustees down at the end if you have anything that you like to say.
Okay, so I've known you for 2 years on the board, Evelyn, and I think over these 2 years, I've seen you grow into someone who's really outspoken. And I just think you're a really friendly and energetic person to be around. And I really admire that about you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I just met Evelyn like 1 year ago, and honestly, it's been more than enough time to know the type of person you are. You're a really nice person, super like strict with yourself, because I've seen you like working really hard for what you want, and it's honestly very like nice to see someone nowadays like working as hard as you are. And honestly, I'm really proud of you.
All right, I'm going to move down to our student trustees at the other end if they have anything they wanted to share.
All right. Evelyn, I just want to say you're a wonderful person and you're so fun to work with. And every time I come to student advisory, you just make the whole room, you like light it up. And I'm so happy to get to work with you. And we're in the same subcommittee this term. So I'm just really excited to like work with you, and you really deserve this. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Tejada?
Evelyn. Oh my goodness. The first time I ever saw you, you weren't a student trustee. So it was during Mission Fusion. My daughter was a senior, and I think you might have been a sophomore or a freshman. So, but I could not stop looking at you when you were performing. I said, who is that girl? I can't stop looking at her. You're so full of joy. And then I got to meet you at, I think it was our immigration resources night. And I met your mom, and we just clicked so well. And you were just there to help. I mean, like what you said, what can I do to help others? That's exactly what you were doing. And then when I got to know you, I didn't even realize you hadn't even been here that long, and already you've immersed yourself in community and helping others. What can I do to help? And when you say that you want to be the voice for those who don't have a voice, I can see that's your future. I can see you being that voice. I mean, as an adult, I can see you doing great things because you're just such an exceptional person. And everything you've brought to being a student trustee has exceeded all of our expectations because I don't know what it's like to learn another language. I don't know what it's like to be a newcomer. You have brought all that knowledge and compassion to this board. When you and Natalia were talking about future grads, that was a perspective that I could never, ever know because I've never experienced it. And you bring a perspective to our student trustee program that is so overwhelmingly needed. I'm really looking forward to what you bring to your presentation. I'm going to keep up with you. I don't know I can keep up with you. I'm going to keep in touch with you because I want, and you need to keep in touch with us because there's so many great things in your future. And I just can't wait to see what you do with it. I just see great things. And it's been my honor to know you.
Thank you so much.
Evelyn, it's been an absolute joy to see you grow as a student trustee last year and this year, and actually the joy that you bring to the student advisory meetings and the excitement and enthusiasm you have. And just reading your story and what Mr. Harrigan just shared, I mean, you are such a model of success. I mean, you've embraced everything that the school and the district has had to offer, and now you're a part of leading those efforts, and that is just incredible. And that is just, that is, so it's so clear it is an essential part of who you are to be able to grow, immerse, and lead. And you are such an example to me, to the adults here, and certainly to your fellow classmates and students. So I'm excited to see what else you will do the rest of this school year before we let you go and tackle something more incredible and amazing down the road. So we know that you're off to some great things. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Evelyn. Congratulations on being nominated for November Student of the Month. John had a lot of nice things to say about you, and it seems like you're a really busy young lady. You got a lot of things going on. So I commend you on being able to juggle all those things. That's not easy to do for a young person that's, actually just trying to be in school and get a good education, right? Amongst all the other things that you're passionate about. It's obvious you're passionate about community and fellowship and helping people. So those are all really big things that a lot of kids your age, I don't think really comprehend how important those things are. So it's nice that they have leadership like yourself to follow, and for you to be a good example like that. And thank you to your mom too for all of her, support for you and everything that all the love she gives you to encourage you to keep doing all this stuff. So congratulations and keep grinding. Proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I will say also thank you to your mom and your family for all their support. I'm super passionate about strong Latina leaders, and I'm very excited to hear the field that you're choosing to go into because we are underrepresented in mental health and don't seek and a lot of times don't have the agency, a lot of fear around taking care of that part of our overall well-being. And one of the huge issues is there's not enough providers that look like us. So I'm thrilled to hear that your spirit is going into possibly looking into going into that field. And I wish you all the luck in that area. And then I want to echo what my fellow trustee just said, that I wish the nation had your level of understanding about how to be community and what it really means to be a part of this country. We need a lot more of that as a nation right now. So I've, in looking in my years of being on school board and 12 years and it coming to an end, Like the points that I think back on and reflect on the most are inflection points where I meet people like you. So I'm so honored and blessed. I don't feel good, so that's why I get emotional easy, but I'm so honored and blessed to know you. And I wish you all the best moving forward. So thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Presta.
Thank you. So you choked me up. Evelyn, I just want to tell you, the first time that I met you was at the high school fair at Ceremony Del Rey, and you were representing Jefferson, and you had this beautiful energy about you. And I think either that night or the next morning, I said to Mr. Harrigan, you need Evelyn to be a student trustee for Jefferson High School.
Man.
And he said, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yep.
And that was, so you stood out. You stood out. Your very positive energy radiates. Your beautiful smile and positivity radiates from you. And as the other students on student advisory mentioned, you pull people in and people want to be around you, and you're a natural leader. I'm really, really proud of you. I'm so happy that you get to receive this honor. You've earned it. And I'm going to get choked up. I just can't wait to see what you do.
All right. And with that, another round of applause. Thank you so much. There's your from us, and I think we're going to take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're all going to go over there to take a picture really quick.
I just want to say again, thank you to all of you for those words. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I feel honored to be here and to be the student of the month.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
You're welcome. You
Evelyn.
deserve it. Well deserved.
Okay.
But I managed to be here on time.
You want to take for your camera? You want to have us look at you? Okay. All right. Yes, congratulations. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Beautiful girl.
Okay. So we're moving on to communications and our board reports. And we'll start first with our student trustees. And since I'm not sure of the name, we're going to start with our trustee down at that end. Do you have, was that? Oh, if you have anything to report out.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so at Westmore High School, we recently had our open house night last week. We've also been planning for our 8th grade tours to come visit the Westmore campus, and we're also planning for our winter ball dance. In addition, we're experiencing a change in administration as our principal leaves for a temporary leave of absence, I believe. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
So at Jefferson High School, we're currently in the service week. Then we also have workshops for college applications going on right now. There was a UCSS, oh, sorry. There was a UCSC field trip today, sorry. The preseason boys and girls soccer started right now, like, yeah, sorry, yesterday. Basketball and cheer tryouts are going on, and tryouts are tomorrow until Friday. And that's about it.
Thank you. Over on this side.
So in Thornton High School, school progress reports were recently mailed out, and this gives us a chance to see where we are to keep us on track. And then Fresh Lifelines for Youth, or FLY, hosted a graduation for us this morning, and we all received certificates and credit for participation in this 12-week program. About 12 students and 3 staff members performed community service at Glad Memorial Church today, and served, food out to the homeless. We are excited to start our mural project very soon as a school. And this week we finish our school-wide participation in alcohol and other drug education and prevention.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Terranova.
All right. And at Oceana, we just had our Black and Latino Student Union trunk or treat, which was really successful. We had a lot of really cool cars there, like lowriders. And we had a lot of participation too. And I believe we had a local food vendor there or two. I don't know, but I heard it was very good. Didn't get to go, but there were a lot of good comments about it. And in addition, the Black and Latino Student Union Club got to put up an ofrenda in our on one of our trees in our hallways, and it was beautiful. And they gave all the students the opportunities to submit pictures of their past loved ones that they were able to put up, and it was lovely to see around the school. We also have our winter formal coming up on the first week of September, and we are preparing for that, as well as our harvest fair, which is an opportunity during lunch for both clubs and classes to sell food, sort of like fall themed or winter themed. And we also had our open house, which was super successful. I myself actually got to lead some tours for incoming freshmen, and I got to know some of them. And I'm fairly confident that we will be getting good people in our class coming in. They seemed very nice. We also had our Halloween Fest, which is very successful. Most of the classes selling sold out of the goods, and our haunted house was really successful as well. And we had karaoke, which everyone enjoyed. And our winter sports are starting. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Tejada.
Hi, good evening. So I was able to attend the Dia de los Muertos performance by the Jefferson Folklorical Club. Ms. Preston and I want to call you Dr. Preston. Ms. Preston and I attended together, and we were just so amazed at the performances, so wonderful. And then Trustee Lee and I attended the County Committee for School District Organization meeting. Scintillating. So then also President Salahuddin, Ms. Presta, Ms. Basuino, and I and Ms. Baca and I attended the Westmore Open House. It was packed. It was packed. It was really nice to see it. And of course, Ms. Stewart leading the choir and the band was amazing. Just what I remember when my son was at Westmore, just amazing performances. And it was nice to see parents there that I knew from when my daughter was in elementary school, and they had their younger children now going to Westmore. And it was just the admin team. I have to admire them for pulling this together in such a very organized way. And the students, the green hats who were leading the tours. And also, Student Advisory Council meeting last night was great as usual. What an amazing group of students. We have two of our presidents right here. Violet and Chloe, and they ran it very well and so organized. It was just nice to see our students in action, and great minds. I just love being around them. And that's it for now.
All right. For me, let's see. Attended the Oceana open house a couple weeks ago, which was fantastic. The Terra Nova open house last week. And of particular note were the student testimonials that were shared in the theater, and those were fantastic. Just two young women who were really able to describe what the school has meant to them and how it has afforded them the opportunities to succeed from two different pathways. And so that was really exciting to hear their stories. And then yesterday, while I missed the student advisory, I did attend the Pacifica School District Oddstad housing groundbreaking. So it's actually impressive that they finally made it, and they'll be breaking ground on their educator workforce housing, which means that in a couple of years, this part of San Mateo County will have two of our feeder districts with housing and us as well. And that's a pretty impressive feat when you think about the work that has gone into all of that. And then last night, President Salahuddin and I also presented to the San Mateo County School Boards Association about 705 ceremony. That's it.
I just want to say I really miss being on the student advisory, to be honest with you, because that was really fun being part of you guys and listening to you guys talk and do all that grown up stuff. But I was also last night I was with my fellow board members here at the San Mateo County School Boards Association. What do they call it? They called it an educator workforce recruitment and retention. It was kind of like a little presentation education thing on some things that are going on within our local school districts. I'm always really surprised to hear all the interest after like Andy and Halima speak about the 705 project and how everybody perks up and is just really curious about how to implement that, I think, in their areas, So it's cool to kind of just continue to learn about that process and really see how much work went into it. So it's really impressive, actually. So that's really all I've been up to.
Everything I did, someone talked about. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Presta.
Thank you. Kind of ditto. I will say, so I was at all of those open houses, and what stood out to me this year was that I was impressed by all, and each had a little bit different of a flavor. There were many student performances that were really impressive. So student performances, students kind of talking about their experience in school and the different pathways that stood out to me. Student involvement at both Oceana and Westmore. They had either it was, so the Green Hats at Westmore, ASB at Oceana, really sort of touring people around and helping the 8th graders and their families to get to know the school. At Terra Nova in the gym, it's always really impressive. They've got all the tables where different departments are tabling and different, sports and things like that. So each has a little bit different flavor, which I think is great. So it gives 8th graders an opportunity to see what kind of feels best to them. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Shreve and the CTE advisory. So there was a meeting that was held here a couple weeks ago, the San Mateo County CTE advisory meeting, and it was really impressive. There were people in here and in all the different meeting rooms. They had people in meeting rooms upstairs, and so it was CTE, people involved with CTE from throughout the county. So that was great, and it was there was a performance by Mission Fusion. It was a really powerful performance, and it just made me feel really proud that everybody was coming to us. So well done. And then I just want to also give a shout out. I was asked, along with many other people I know, to give a TED Talk. So Westmore has a TEDx club. So I just said, oh, sure, okay, I'll do that. Well, it's intense. These kids are actually these students, these young people are very organized. I've had a couple of meetings already. They want to make sure I'm on track with my work and if I've got my topic thought out. And they are very, very supportive. So I'm very impressed by our young people. I hope my TED Talk is okay. But more than that, I just want to say it's not until January, so I have a little time, but they've got check-ins all along the way. So it's really a shout out to our teachers for, I think, being good examples. These young people really know how to organize something, and a big shout out to the students. So very impressed, and I may let you know when it happens. If I'm kidding. We'll let you know when it happens. But I am a little nervous about giving a TED Talk. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on, if there are any board subcommittee reports? No? Okay, turning it over to AFT Local 1481, President Casey.
Good evening. I'm going to take us to a different avenue. So we had our board meeting, our 1481 board meeting, and so there were a few concerns that have come up and keep coming up. So I just want to let you know what they are. We have been talking almost at every meeting, at every site I go to, library tech folks and everyone else also are concerned about what's going to happen next year when we don't have our librarians, and they want to just make sure that it's very transparent what's going to happen and if they're going to have additional compensation and how they're going to be supported. And knowing that each site is very individual, how they use their library and library tech personnel and how they are run. Another issue that has come up is our agency folks and international folks. We appreciate having them here, of course. They definitely fill a need that we have. We still have some positions that are fluid, and when we have those agency folks or international folks, sometimes things don't work out because of the United States. And so it causes a crunch for the rest of us. So I just wanted to mention that. The other thing is we're just concerned for our international folks, how the new national government and admin will deal with those people and how that will affect them. So we're just a little worried for them. We also wanted to just bring up that there's a domino effect when we're missing someone, especially in the classified realm. When we're missing somebody, there's a domino effect. So if we're missing a position, then somebody else has to cover for that person, then they're not doing their position. And it's not necessarily anybody's fault if we don't have people in those positions. It's just people are feeling stressed out about it. And then the last thing, on a positive note, is we've heard a lot of good thing about Westmore's phone policy, and I'd like to hear more about it. I haven't heard much about it, but we've heard a few people say that the phone policy there is going well. Students are not using their phones in classes, and it's really been helpful in those classes. And I don't know how pervasive it is, but that's happening, and we'd like to see how to expand that to other sites. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to a question about what she said. So it's not on the agenda, so we can't really do that. Sorry, she just has to report out. But feel free, if you want to answer to the question, you can just email Monica and she can get back to you. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. Unless anyone wants to pull anything off, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Now I'm moving on to public comments. I don't have any cards. No. For public, so items not on the agenda. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move on to discussion items. Our first item up for discussion is our presentation of our 2024 California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, our CASP results. Turning it over to Ms. Baca.
All right, good evening, President Salahuddin. Good evening, members of the board. This evening, I'll be sharing the results from the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, or CASP. As a reminder, the CASP is an assessment system that has many different parts. So for tonight, I'll be going over the scores for the Smarter Balance assessments in ELA and math, the California Science Test, and the California Alternate Assessments for ELA and math. And I'll be pausing in each of the sections for questions and clarifications. So the results of these tests help parents, teachers, students gauge a student's progress towards grade level standards and are used for state and federal accountability. Additionally, the California State University system uses these scores as one of the several measures to assess college readiness and determine placement in general education courses for English and math. So with the Smarter Balance assessment, they are adaptive digital tests designed to align with the Common Core state standards. A student can achieve within a 4 level. So it's level 1, standard not met, level 2, standard nearly met, level 3, standard met, and level 4, standard exceeded. And these tests were administered last spring to students who were in the 11th grade, and they are now seniors. The data before you is a 4-year comparison for the English language arts scores. It excludes scores from the 2020 and 2021 school year due to disruptions from the COVID-19 virus. So the bar graph shows the percentage of students who met or exceeded the standards, with the red bar representing the most recent scores. So as you can see, the overall percentage has remained relatively steady at around 56 or 57%. The dotted blue line represents the statewide percentage of 11th graders in California who met or exceeded the standards, while the green solid line shows the same metric for 11th grade students in our county. So the trends for JUHSD, the state and the county, are generally consistent over the years, and JUHSD's performance has been slightly above the state average, but below the county average. Here are the results for mathematics, with 30% of students meeting or exceeding standards. And as you can see, the percent of students remain very similar to that of since 2022. And the trend for a district is very similar to that of the county and the states. This slide shows trends by ethnicity, comparing performance over 3 years for each significant subgroup, significant ethnic subgroup. As you can see, you will not see our Native American students, Black students, and Pacific Islanders in this because there were fewer than 11 students that were tested. So the first set of bars represents the percentage of all students who met or exceeded proficiency. So again, that's about 57%. For Asian, about 77% met or exceeded standards, 38% of Hispanic students, 68% of Filipino students, 69% of students identifying as 2 or more races, and 60% of white students met or exceeded standards. So this group demonstrated the most significant growth with an increase from the previous year, and which is about 8%. And Hispanic students consistently underperform, achieving about 20% less than the all student group and approximately about 39% less than the Asian group. So addressing this gap remains a critical area of focus for improvement. Here are the trends for the other student groups. So this is a comparison between English learners and non-English learners. So EL scores dropped from 2022 to 2023, but rebounded again in 2024 with 7.69% meeting or exceeding standards. The gap is narrowing, but this is due to the decline of the non-EL scores. This chart compares the scores for students with and without IEP. So performance among students with IEP has steadily declined over the last 3 years, with only 9% meeting standards in 2024. This chart compares the low socioeconomic status and the non-low socioeconomic status students. Low SES students showed significant improvement from 23 to 24 with 48% meeting standards. So low SES students had the most notable improvement from 2023 to 2024. And finally, here's a comparison between male and female students. The data shows that female students consistently outperform our male students, but both groups follow a parallel trends in their scores over the past 3 years. Here are the scores and breakdown for math performance by ethnicity. Overall, there was only a slight decrease of 0.30 from 2023 to 2024, with approximately 30% of all students meeting or exceeding standards. Asian students had the highest percentage of students meeting standards with 60%. Hispanic Latino had 11% meeting or exceeding standards. Filipino with about 30%. Students identifying two or more race showed approximately 38%, and white students had 41% meeting or exceeding standards, and it's the largest percentage increase from the previous year for ethnic groups. So this is a comparison again for ELs and non-ELs, and it shows that only 1%, about 1% met or exceeded standards in math. Additionally, the gap between English learners and non-English learners widened. Similar trend is observed among students with IEP, with approximately 1% meeting or exceeding the standards. Here's the comparison between low ES and non-low SES students. There's a noticeable dip in the performance from 2022 to 2023, with a decrease of 4.92 points. But this trend partially reversed in 2024, with now about 22% of students meeting or exceeding standards. And as you may recall, there was this noticeable gap between male and female in English language arts. However, in math, their scores are remarkably similar, with about 30% meeting or exceeding standards. This slide shows the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards in ELA categorized by student groups from each of the school sites. So cells marked with the asterisk indicate that there were fewer than 11 students tested. The numbers shown in black represent the percent of students meeting or exceeding standards, while the green or red numbers beneath them indicate the percentage increase or decrease compared to the previous year. So all schools saw an increase in scores among students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and white students showed gains across the board as well. However, scores for Hispanic students declined at all schools except for Jefferson High School, where their scores improved. Here are the math scores. And again, low socioeconomic status students showed positive growth across all school sites, while students also showed growth, white students showed growth across all school sites. And just a comparison with the state data, it is with their low socioeconomic status students where there was also a significant growth. So our scores parallel that of the state's data. And before I move on, are there any questions or clarification?
Opening up for question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, just a couple of questions. Let me see if I can find the story. Looking at the math trends and sort of comparing it to, I think, the LCAP goals for CASP scores in math, it seems like we would have a fair bit of work ahead of us, because I think those percentages, given this year's results, may be a little assertive, perhaps.
Yes, it's where it's measured right now is quite high. Again, given where we are with the 30%, I'm not quite sure if we will get there within 3 years. However, I am pretty positive, crossing my fingers, that we will improve because we're doing a lot of work in math right now in all of the school sites. And if for whatever reason with the LCAP, we need to adjust our goal, we can add that into the notes saying that, you know, knowing what our goal is and where we are, we would like to adjust our goal, and that is also a possibility. So we could adjust the outcome within 3 years if we would like to.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that we do. I think it's actually probably good to set the bar higher. I mean, the way we have. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit on?
It's a little high, like 45%.
Yeah, it is. But you know, could you just sort of elaborate a little bit about what specific
The
steps?
things that we are doing.
Yeah, that we are doing.
I was gonna go over it at the end, but I can.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You should save it to the end then.
Okay.
Sorry.
Don't spoil it.
right.
Any other questions, clarifying questions? No. Can we look, is there any idea of what the differentiation for Oceana is for math? That's a really big drop
Right now.
for Hispanic Latinx.
For Hispanic Latinx.
Mm.
Yes, Principal Torres and I were very surprised when we saw these scores, and we're still trying to figure out and analyze what had happened. I know one of the major things that happened at Oceana is that there were quite a few opt-outs last year. And so their scores did not count towards this. So I'm not quite sure who opted out and if it plays into account the 5% of students meeting standards.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, for the California Science Test, so this is also a digital exam based on the next generation science standards in physical science, life science, earth and space science. And last year, this test was administered to 11th and 12th grade students. So here is a 3-year comparison. So district-wide, 29% of our students met or exceeded standards. This is a decline from the previous 2 years. We fell slightly below in the state's average for high school students, and there's about 13% gap between our district and the San Mateo County high schools. This chart shows the breakdown scores by ethnicity. Asian students remain pretty much the same from 23-24 school year. Filipino students showed an increase in scores, but all the other ethnic groups showed decrease in scores in science. And here's the science trend for the student groups. As you can see, 0.81% of students learning English met or exceeded the standards. And pretty similar for students with IEP. There's also a decline in scores for students identified as low socioeconomic status, and same with the female and male students. So overall, there was a decline in our science scores. Questions?
Opening up for any questions. Can you tell me again, when we test for, like, what is being tested when they're being tested for science?
So they're being tested for biology, chemistry, and physics.
Biology, chemistry, and physics, okay. Yeah, and this is still 11th graders.
This is 11th and 12th graders.
11th and 12th.
For the California Science Test, the student has to take the test before they leave high school.
Got it.
It could be administered in the 10th grade, 11th grade, or 12th grade. The recommendation is that the students take the test the last year that they take the science class.
Okay.
But I've done some analysis, and actually it did not make a difference whether
They took the science class or
took
not.
the science class that last year or they're not done with science.
Okay.
And from last year's scores, students who were actually given this test, like the 12th graders, did much better than the students who took it in the 10th grade and in the 11th grade. And the 12th graders didn't really have, a lot of them didn't have science. So it's
just critical thinking, maybe.
possibly. It could be that In the 11th grade, they're given so many tests.
Mm.
So it could be like, 12th grade, it feels more like relaxed, and that's, really the only test that they have. So that could play into factor.
Mm.
Don't know.
And for the 11th graders or the 12th graders normally moving forward that take the test, they will have had classes in all 3 subjects, or?
Some of them do. The requirement for us is 2 years of science.
Right.
So some of them take 3 years, but most of our students only
Oh,
take 2.
Okay. That's all the question I had. Anyone else with a question? No? Okay.
Just one
Yeah,
question.
go,
Were,
Trustee Lee.
were there any opt-outs in science as well?
Not as many.
Okay.
The third assessment is the California alternate assessments. And these assessments are for students with severe cognitive disabilities as outlined in their individual education plan. So 33% of our students met the standard in ELA, and this outperforms the state average by approximately 12%, and the county's 11th grade students by 7%. So our students did really well. And in math, 6.67% of our students met standards, exceeding the county's average by 1.26%, though falling about 5% behind the state average. But overall, we did fairly well for alternate assessments. And some key takeaway is that, so the district-wide scores for ELA and math pretty much remained flat from the previous years across all students and ethnic groups, with the exception of an increase of 7.92% points among our white students. Socioeconomically disadvantaged student group demonstrated the highest growth in English language arts and math, and there was a decline of 4.56 percentage points for science. So some strategies for improvement. So piloting common lit resources for English courses. So English at JUHSD has always been novel-based, and we're finding out that just purely novel-based excludes some students, actually a lot of students, from accessing the materials. So Common Lit, it's a comprehensive standards-based literacy program that are accessible and adaptable. It includes materials that are rigorous but accessible, and they are aligned with the grade level standards. So as an example, some of their units is like, they ask whether graffiti is an art or crime. And so students get to discuss that using different materials. They debate about it. They do projects about it. The other units that they're looking at, or part of the Common Lit, is, the science of branding, why we buy what we buy. So some of these topics are very, very culturally relevant, and our students are interested. So currently, the ask is that our 9th grade teachers are piloting at least 1 unit this year. And for next year, we asked that our 10th and 11th grade teachers also pilot at least 1 unit. And as the following year, we will adopt, hopefully, Common Lit if we hear good feedback from our teachers, to adopt that district-wide along with the novels. So we're not going away with the novels, but we're just adding materials for our English language arts curriculum. In science, we have adopted a biology book that is aligned with NGSS, but we haven't done so for chemistry and physics because there hasn't been really any materials that have been great that are aligned to NGSS. Now we're came across Open SciEd, which is used widely in the county, and we are piloting and looking at these modules for chemistry and physics. Now for math, again, Principal Harrigan left, but I was going to put him on the spot because when I shared the scores with the principals this year, he was not very happy with the scores for Jefferson High School. And so he had funded and provided math release days for all of his math teachers to actually come here and have a discussion, create common formative assessments, discuss what students did not get right and how they can improve their teaching. In addition, they are embedding a lot of the CAS type questions in their math routines every week, basically. So the students are exposed to these types of questions because, again, our 11th graders take this. The last time that they would have taken this exam was in the 8th grade. And so just a reminder on, what these test questions look like is something that they're doing. So that's Jefferson High School, but Westmore and Terra Nova are also doing something very, very similar, where there's a lot of collaboration and release days for math. The other thing that they had talked about is administering, again, the interim assessment. So part of the CASP system is like a practice exam the students can take, and so they will be administering that. I already mentioned about the problems that they were exposed to so that they can get used to the test format. And also some of I think all of the school sites provide some kind of tutoring also to help our students. And then finally, because CAS is only administered in the 11th grade, we will administer our Renaissance Star ELA in math to see growth for our students. And that is it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have a few. So I know we've been administering assessments for a little while now and using Renaissance. What happens, for example, in a classroom where the assessments are given and it's not showing growth?
What they're supposed to be doing is figuring out like the types of questions that students are not getting right and figure out why that is not happening. And also provide a, basically ask and collaborate as to how can you teach the materials differently so that students are able to access and learn the material. I know that one of the practices at the schools is that, they have them retake, but it's not just really essentially retaking the same thing. It's basically like explaining, they're having the students explain what they had missed in writing. That is one of the other focus too for our math teachers. So it's not just really basically explaining thinking. And then again, our teachers are supposed to be collaborating to make sure that they can figure out other ways to teach the material so that the students understand it.
And so is there time to do all that?
So not enough.
Okay.
Not enough, but the collaboration every Wednesday really help. The 7-period day at Westmore really helps because teachers have a dedicated collaboration time built in during the day. So having the teachers have basically 2 periods. One of them is for collaboration. Terra Nova is thinking about doing something similarly. And then also there, as time after school, we provide, timesheets if they do meet after school to discuss these things. And if they ask, we do provide them with subs and release days so that they can actually work on this.
And I know we said this is what they're supposed to do. Is there a way to confirm that it actually happened?
One of the challenges that we're facing is just the bandwidth of people and our administrators. And so, we're hoping to basically empower them and give them, take some things off of them so that they can really focus on instruction.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is, one thing that we would like to do.
Okay. Yeah, and looking at what we can possibly put down, is there, things that we don't need to? be focused on, because I know we're, as we all are overachievers, we like to do everything at once. I'm guilty of this all the time. It's hard to be my friend because I'm constantly having people do things. But you know, in our strive, you know, this is something that's very important. Is there other things that we don't need to necessarily do? So that we can, what path do we need to clear in order to make sure that everyone has the bandwidth to do this and we're not burning folks out? Is kind of my major area of concern. And then the support needed in order to ensure that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing with the different tools that are been given. And then how to use the time to collaborate, what they're supposed to be doing when they're collaborating. And that's a whole lot of, it's a lot of oversight on people that I know that are already super busy. So, we're not going to solve this tonight, but it's just something that I think about a lot is bandwidth and capacity. Yes, please go ahead, Superintendent Presser.
Thanks.
I'll turn it over to you.
Just to add on, we had a really great discussion last week, I think it was, at the Terra Nova site board meeting about this very topic, about kind of, what is it, a mile wide and an inch deep? I mean, that phrase wasn't used, but that's what I was thinking, like so many initiatives, like what are we really focusing on? And so I think that we leaders have work to do. And saying, in all good faith, they're supposed to do this, but like, how can we make that possible? So I'm just sort of acknowledging and seconding, like, we have work to do in order to support our teachers to do the work that they need to do to support our students.
Trustee Gallegos.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off what Kalima was saying as far as, kind of given, too much work to individuals all at once. And just thinking about kind of how these assessments are done. And it seems like, obviously there's test taking all along the way during the school year and class and all that kind of stuff. And then they get to this point in 11th grade where they got to take this CASP assessment. And I'm just curious, is there a way to kind of incorporate some of those bigger details that we're trying to get to as far as how we correct this course? Because it really is concerning kind of seeing, especially for that Latin population and the decline and the low numbers is, I think it's kind of a bummer to see that. But, in trying to fix that and trying to resolve that, in taking all these tests, is there a way to kind of incorporate some of this assessment and some of this correction along the way so that it's not such a big task all at once when we figure out that, things aren't really going as good as they should be going, or the course isn't being, comprehended as well. In other words, I think you mentioned, I heard you say something along the lines of maybe some of the quizzes or tests being kind of similar to what a CASP test would be, so that they kind of get the format of what that testing would be like. I mean, can we do more of that along the way as they go through school to get them ready for something like that, so that you get a bunch of mini assessments before you get to this big one where it really kind of hits the books and sticks like that. You know what I mean? I just wanted to add that to that.
And so essentially that is what they're trying to do when they're creating you hear the blue sheets, the blue sheet work, and making sure that within that, there's also common assessments that they give throughout. I think one of the other things that could also be added is that, for students, this really doesn't affect them that much. It doesn't, affect their admission to college. It's really more for the school and for the district, but finding out, like, making this a little more meaningful as to why this test is important is something that we could work on. So again, having using this test as the part of the early assessment program, where for CSUs, California State University system, if they actually score met or exceeded, they could be placed in a general education class and they won't need additional
Immediate.
support.
Yeah.
So messaging that, I think, is important.
Yes, please.
Ms. Baca, you mentioned the blue sheet work. Can you explain what blue sheets are student learning targets?
Yeah, so blue sheets are the student learning targets for each of the units that are course alike teachers. So all math course 1 teachers within that school agree that in this unit, these are the objectives for our students. What are some of the key vocabulary words within that unit? What types of assessments could be potentially given? And so that it is clear for students and also for the teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, based on what you just said, as far as the kids not really taking these tests, as serious as they should, because it doesn't really affect them, but we're kind of basing a lot of what we're trying to do as far as setting goals on these tests. So is there other, as far as how they're doing in class, with their regular assessments, is there a way to kind of compare those to these or something? Just something that's given us something a little bit more viable than just this test that these kids aren't taking seriously. Because to me, this is serious. This looks serious to me.
And also, I think not to interrupt you, Ms.
Yeah.
Baca, but in our on-site meeting that we had at Jefferson, they were saying that there was a correlation, like even though they may not take this CASP test as seriously, their results were similar in other areas that they do take seriously. So it is a little reflective. Not basing everything off of CASP, but it does seem to be a key indicator, canary in a coal mine, whatever analogy you want to use, that the work needs to be done in this particular area. And then I know we have students here and we've been talking a lot about students and do you guys want to talk at all about, like, have you taken assessments in your classroom, general feeling about assessments in the classroom, talking a little bit about math scores and frustrations around math, or anything that you want to add to the conversation? No pressure, but a little bit, because that's why you're here. Yes, go ahead.
I'm honestly surprised by what I saw because I wouldn't say that that's actually what's happening in my classroom. Like right now, as a sophomore, I'm taking math course 3. So I'm trying to go like ahead of myself, and I'm trying, especially in math, to improve. So, and I've seen many students doing that. So to me, actually, it's very surprising. And I feel one of the things that you guys said is that we are not taking seriously like those type of tests because they don't affect us. So I can see where they're coming from. Like it's just something that we do and then we just leave it like that. I also see people taking like the state test, and they just do it in like 5 minutes, and it honestly takes like more than 5 minutes. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Since I go to Oceana, which is I think the smallest school in the district, yes. I think our scores sort of reflect like the small group of people that does go to our school. And I think that our scores were generally higher because there are less kids, which means that more attention can be focused on kids. So it's going to Oceana has really highlighted the importance for me of being able to have one-on-one time with your instructor or just individual time for practice, because if you're communicating with the person who's teaching the class directly as opposed to them teaching 20 other kids while you're in the classroom, then that is a difference in what you learn and your quality of learning. So if I were to like say anything about how to improve, I feel like it would be like more individual time or assessing students individually on what they need. Like flex time or advisory time is really good for students to go up to their teachers and just discuss any questions they have about lessons or even like office hours, like during lunch or outside of school. But I think individual learning time between teacher and student is important. And if it's like really serious, I guess maybe parents could be contacted if there's something that's like they can't communicate with the teacher for whatever reason. But yeah, bottom line, I just think more individual time for improving.
And then this is me just throwing things out there. I mean, why can't we make CASP mean something?
Yeah, I know that in the past with CST, I think there was a target set a while back that if they reach a certain target, they got to go to Great America. Or like free dress day.
While it's
or
open,
I don't
while
know,
it's open. Yeah.
Just something to make it a little more fun.
Yeah.
So that it, it might be something like, yeah, you can throw a pie at your teacher day or something
Mhm.
if you increase your score. I don't know. But
Can we
yeah.
ask this, or maybe like ask the students what would be meaningful in that, some way to make it meaningful? I mean, and I'm not saying do this, but A to G, we made the rule that it could affect grade, right? That if you got a 5 on your A to G test, it could affect your grade, which, caused and the reason why this is meaningful is Amira was like, great, because I don't like that class. I'm not doing the homework. I'm just gonna get a 5 on the test. So I don't know if that's the way to go, but that's what she did.
Oh, that's the AP test?
That's the AP test,
Yeah.
excuse me. I'm saying AG because I don't feel good.
Yeah.
But we did that for one area. Is there another way or just something that we can do to give more meaning to something that has such an effect on us?
That has been talked about, that perhaps with the grades that they earn, the teachers would have to agree that, if they got a B minus, maybe they can get A minus or something. It's just a
We're
whole
taking
bunch
away
of
those.
things are getting thrown out there and just
Mhm.
brainstorming ideas.
Okay. Cool. That's all I have.
But do you have buy-in from teachers?
And that's, that's a question like they need to discuss as a school on what is it, what will the adults commit to.
Yeah, because, the strategies for improvement, some of it's starting to sound like the old controversy of teaching to the test. But if we put importance on the CASP, I think the difference is that along the line, just trying to embed CASP-like questions into common homework I think it's pretty good. Just so that, our students here probably attest to it. They don't, they don't like these tests, But I remember when my son was at Westmore, I think you came to the PTSA meeting and you talked to the parents about the advantages of taking CASP. And that really woke up a lot of parents, including myself, when, oh, it really is important. And so I know a lot of the parents talk to their students, but, that's just a handful in PTSA.
Yeah. And yeah, 1 second. Yeah. I don't think we should teach the test either. And I think the issue that that's at the forefront for me is, and we had a discussion with this at Jefferson at our site meeting, is that I think they were saying on some of the assessments, they were doing okay. Or the homework that they were given and the problems that they were given, they had the ability to do problems in a school site, but then when given the same problem but in a different manner, that's where they felt like the struggle was coming in. And so being able to handle math, no matter how it comes at you or how it's delivered, I think was kind of the obstacle. And that was just the observation at Jeff. That may not be true of the other school sites, but I think that's important. And then one of the important things is, our goal of having students go to college, we know that the CSUs and the UCs have said that the math test a lot of our students out of all our schools are failing that test and having to take remedial math, which is a key indicator or one of the indicators of not graduating from college. So being able to have students that can handle math problems and differentiate no matter how they're presented to them is essential for a goal of making sure that the students we send to school actually graduate. And so the reason why I want them to take CAS seriously is like, it's just so we can see another assessment of them taking a math problem in a different way and see how they do. And so how do we make them take that test seriously so that we could just measure them doing another way to take math? And the CASP is, I know there's some similarities to the math test that's giving sometimes the problems. So that was more of my point there, Superintendent Presta.
Thanks. I think so I have lots of different thoughts.
Yeah.
I think one thing, just having this discussion is good. I think that, yes, of course, we want students to take the CASP test seriously. They don't always. So we need to talk to students to find out why they don't and what might make them take it more seriously. But that's not the only reason. So like we're saying, I mean, it isn't, oh, they don't take it serious. And we're not saying that, we're not saying, oh, they really should be scoring up here. They just don't take it seriously. I think that there's some real truth to the fact that that we have to figure out what's getting in the way because they aren't achieving at those high levels. And so it's quite complex, and that's why we're all here,
Not a single thing.
No, it's not a single thing. It's not a single thing. And so we want students to, I used to be a math coach a long time ago, and I know that teaching students an algorithm or how to do something is not teaching them how to think about something, so that when they get a novel idea, they know how to do what the teacher told them to do. So we shouldn't be teaching that way. And it's how most of us were taught.
Yeah.
So it's complex. And so we have to support teachers. We have to give them collaboration time, and not only time, but we have to learn new things and learn new ways of teaching, of educating our kids. And so it's complex, and I think it's really good that we're talking about it and knowing that we need to do more.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? No. Thank you so much, Ms. Baca. All right, moving on to our human resource discussion of job classification and compensation study. Turning it over to Ms. Van Raphorst and Ms. Lujan.
Good evening, everyone. About a year ago, or a little over, Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst and I embarked upon a job classification and compensation study with CPS-HR. CPS-HR Consulting conducted a study of 30 different positions within the district. For the compensation study, CPS-HR conducted comparisons of 8 different local labor markets. They're here. We're joined this evening by Nicole Goes and Suzanne Anasari, who provide an overview of the compensation findings.
So high tech. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Great. Well, oops, sorry. Well, good evening, board members and district staff, students and attendees. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. My name is Suzanne Ansari, and I'm a senior HR consultant with CPS-HR. I'm also accompanied tonight by my colleague, Nicole Goes, who is also a pivotal member of our project team. And we're presenting on behalf of Ellen Fischel, who served as the project manager for this very important study, but she's unable to join us tonight. The purpose of our presentation is to share an overview of the total compensation study that our firm conducted on behalf of the district. And go ahead and next slide. Oh, can you go one back? Sorry. So tonight's agenda will cover the following topics. We'll do a brief introduction about who CPS HR is, what we do. We'll go over the project parameters and methodology, the study results, the salary recommendations, and then the conclusion. Next slide. So a little bit about CPS HR. We are a self-supporting public agency based in Sacramento. We were established as a Joint Powers of Authority, or a JPA, in 1985. And we've served as a trusted HR consultant to clients all across North America for over 30 plus years. CPS HR Consulting is a client-centered human resource and management consulting firm. We specialize in government and nonprofit clients. And our client list includes over 2,700 city governments, school districts, community colleges, county offices, and special districts. Next slide. In addition to classification and compensation services, we also help clients with other HR needs in the area of organizational strategy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, testing, training, recruitment, licensing, and certification. Next slide. Our CPS HR class and comp unit, we have members that have between 5 and 30 years of relevant work experience, from analysts to HR directors. And this project was staffed by several of the members that are listed here on the slide. And the names in red indicate our team members who actively participated on this project. Next slide. Tina and Deanna are served as our primary internal project team contacts. And next slide. And I just wanted to share kind of the overarching scope of work for the total compensation, and that included a total of 30 benchmark classifications, 8 labor market agencies, salary recommendations, and a final report. And as you may know, CPS HR had completed a classification study, which was conducted and completed in July. Next slide. So the total compensation process included 6 major steps in the process. The first was the initiation and the kickoff meeting. The second step was the confirmation of the project parameters, including, which benchmark jobs were we going to go out and survey, and what labor market agencies were going to be used in the study. There was also the data collection and job matching phase, a data analysis phase, and then the development of salary recommendation. And there was also client discussions and feedback. We wanted to make sure we got the buy-in on the job matches that we made, and then final deliverables. Next slide. So CPS HR, we utilize a very comprehensive approach to job matching, which includes requesting and reviewing job descriptions. And sometimes that's a struggle because maybe they don't have the most current one online, or they don't have them posted online at all. So we have to call and email, ask really nicely. A lot of times we looked at organizational charts, class allocations, to really ensure the accuracy of the comparability of the job matches that we made. The final report really provides a very deep dive into the methodologies used in our data collection and analysis, and the development of the salary recommendations. CPS HR provided labor market data analysis based on the median of the market. So the median of the market is really that middlemost point between an array of numbers. And so from the lower half to the top, there's that median, and we use that median in our reporting as reflected. So as you know, averages can have highs and extreme lows, but the median is that middlemost point. So we use that in our reporting for the various deliverables for this report. Next slide. So with regard to the typical labor market agency criteria, these are some of the typical criteria that we would recommend in considering which agencies to use as comparable labor market agencies. And Jefferson Union did provide CPSHR with a list of the final labor market agencies. Next slide. And the final labor market agencies that we used for the study included Cabrillo Unified, Daly City, City of Pacifica, Jefferson Elementary School District, Pacifica Elementary, San Bruno Park School District, San Francisco Unified, and South San Francisco Unified. And for this study, CPSHR was able to obtain data from all of the labor market agencies, excluding the City of Pacifica, where while we had the salary schedules, we were not able to obtain the job descriptions to really fully compare and vet the matches. For this project, Jefferson Union did select the Meet the Labor Market approach, and they confirmed the labor market agencies. And so that Meet the Labor Market approach, or trying to really ensure that your competitive salaries were at the 50th percentile, that was a strategy that CPSHR did consider during the data collection, the analysis, and recommendations. Next slide. So which jobs did we study? This slide provides an overview of the 30 benchmark classifications that were identified in the study. And all the benchmarks were classified staff jobs. So what is a benchmark? Well, kind of in a nutshell, a benchmark classification is a job that really represents an occupational group or family or job profession, and has a clear and consistent definition. And also they're jobs that can be found in other districts, for example, like an administrative assistant or a bus driver or custodian. It's important to note that CPSHR, we didn't survey all the jobs at the district, only these 30 benchmark jobs were part of the study scope. Next slide. So I wanted to briefly share the methodology that we used during the study. And I will say that job matching, it is one of the most difficult parts of doing a study, because, we really want to ensure that we're comparing like classifications. And sometimes districts are, might have the same job title, but they're different in how they're using it. Or one district may be a lot smaller. So, they have those hybrid jobs where they're doing multiple things, not just attendance, but they're also, doing a reception, for example. So CPSHR looked at the preponderance of duties, the scope of authority, and other factors to ensure that the job match really was similar and had the same level and scope of work, but also similar education and experience requirements. And CPSHR, we did not match just simply on the same title. We really took that deep dive in making sure that if we selected, say a 2-level job, that it was consistent with your job. Next slide. And so this study included both base salary and benefits, which we consider total compensation. These are the specific benefits elements that were collected and reported in our total compensation analysis. So we looked at employer paid health benefits, retirement contributions, leave information, and cash add-ons. Next slide. And based on a review of the district's salary structure, Jefferson Union currently has a traditional pay structure where the pay ranges for job families are kind of in the neighborhood of 16.15% to 27.74% in bandwidth, or the spread from the minimum to the maximum. Our analysis showed some differences in salary ranges within certain jobs at the district, which could lead to uneven pay for similar roles. So we would suggest and recommend setting consistent bandwidth, or that spread between the minimum and the maximum, for each level. And our consultants also found that some of the district job families were not on pace with current market medians and salary trends. And those misalignments can make it harder to attract and retain top talent. So we would suggest adjusting these job families to better match the industry standards and to ensure fair compensation practices. Next slide. Overall, the good news based on the study results show that the majority of the Jefferson Union benchmark jobs are being paid fairly and considered at market, which means they're competitive when looking at base compensation. There are 6 position benchmark jobs that are paid above the market and 8 positions that are below the market. So CPSHR considers at market to be between 5% below or 5% above the median or the middle of the market. Next slide. And we know this is a lot of data, and I do want to preface that CPSHR has provided a very detailed salary summary, which can be found on page 14 of the final report, which shows kind of that high-level overview of how the district's benchmark jobs compared with the relevant labor market in base salary. And we also included in our final deliverables the individual data sheets, so you can see which job did we match for each of the labor market agencies for each of the benchmarks. So which jobs did we find at other districts or cities for the accounting specialist or for the administrative assistant? And I do want to share that in reading this salary summary, it's important to note that a negative number indicates that the district is above the labor market, and a positive number means that the district salaries are below the labor market and need that indicated percentage to reach the labor market median. I do want to also add that the district's base salary is not included in the calculations we made for the median and or the mean salary calculations. Next slide. So in terms of the district's total compensation, we found that it does generally meet the market in terms of overall compensation, with a few exceptions. That means that the combination of the district's direct and indirect benefits, including the retirement plans, the health care, and other perks, really gives Jefferson Union a significant advantage in attracting and retaining top talent. Next slide. The total compensation summary can be found on page 16 in the report, but this chart shows that Jefferson Union benchmarks, it shows your titles, how many matches we found, the total compensation values are listed in white, and the market total compensation values are listed in gray, and the variance as compared to the market. Consistent with base compensation data results, we did find that there were 2 job families that are significantly below market that the district may want to consider looking further into, and those were in the skilled trades and IT job families. Next slide. CPSHR recommends standardizing the bandwidth, or that spread between the minimum and the maximum, across positions so that it is consistent with the labor market. When the bandwidth is out of alignment, some jobs may be paid lower than the market median minimum and higher than the market maximum. Also, CPSHR recommends standardizing that separation between the salary ranges. Next slide. So CPSHR has developed and sent a proposed salary range for consideration by the district for the Operational Support Services Unit, or OSS. And this structure creates a consistent 22.22% bandwidth within the salary ranges and a consistent 3% separation between the salary ranges. There are some salary ranges which might not be utilized with current positions now, but are included on the schedule, really to allow for that potential growth within the organization and maintain the consistent separation between the ranges. And also the Business and Instructional Support Services, or BISS, has a very similar salary range recommendation that CBS HR provided, which I'm not going to include in this presentation tonight, but it is included in the report deliverables. CBS HR, again, would recommend that the skilled trades and the IT positions be slotted into the higher ranges so that they're consistent with the labor market trends as shown on the data sheets. Next slide. And we're almost at the end. So as we bring this presentation to a close, we'd like to emphasize really how much we enjoyed working with Tina and Diana and the internal team at Jefferson Union High School District. I want to thank you for the opportunity to work on this project. I know Ellen would have really been happy to be here as well, because she partnered directly with your district's internal team. And we look forward to responding to any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Opening up for any questions. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering, when you guys do this like analysis, do you guys account for like how much the district is able to pay, or is it just based on like market standards?
Yeah, it's based on your base salary, that you're paying on the salary schedule. So it doesn't look at like future ability to pay, at a different salary range. It's looking kind of at, we're comparing apples to apples. What is your current base salary for, say, that accounting specialist versus what is a comparable agency's base salary for a similar type of job?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Add a little bit to
Yes,
that.
go ahead.
I could add a little bit to that answer. I would say that it was taken in, so I think what you're talking about is our revenue compared to the other agencies. So that was taken into consideration in the beginning process when we selected those 8 different agencies of who we compared it to, which is why we didn't include San Mateo, the city of San Mateo, for instance, or other agencies that have higher revenue than us. Granted, some of those agencies do have higher revenue, but not extremely higher.
Trustee Lee.
So what are we going to do with the data? What's the next step?
Okay. The next step is to work with our labor partners. So we haven't really talked about it that much, but I think that our intention is probably just to take this to the table when we go in the winter, spring timeframe, when we go to the table.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? I just want to say thank you. It's nice to have data to when you go into negotiations to have that conversation. And the things that stood out to me is just having consistency around position and pay. And that is a significant morale issue. And I don't want to see someone doing the same or comparable jobs, but just because they're in different areas, their pay is different. That doesn't make sense. So anything that we can do to ensure that everyone's getting paid for the work that they're delivering across the board is something that I would like to see. And hopefully we can move forward on that. And then again, having areas of growth. And that was another thing. Like, so you'd like to feel like you're in a career that has some sort of upward mobility. So the potential to have areas of growth in some areas and see what we can do there is also good to see that there's a possibility, and hopefully we can move forward and make that happen. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to put a curveball, not really a curveball, but it isn't in this presentation, but included in this was a whole study around job classifications and descriptions. So I don't know if, I'm looking at Director Lujan. Are we is that going to come to the board when we bring those job descriptions for approval, the changes, or?
Great wondering. So the job descriptions have just recently been shared with the union. So the union will be reviewing, and then upon their approval, then we'll bring all the job description updates to the board.
So I also kind of just want to thank CPSHR. I mean, I think it was a really, really big job for our staff, for their staff, for the, everybody involved. So I want to thank you all for the amount of effort that you put into it, and all of our employees. Thanks.
Yes. And then know that, the other part of the analysis is seeing if we're in market range. And again, acknowledging that our market range is still below what everyone deserves to be paid, but at least we're giving comparable to what other folks that are in the same bucket of being underfunded because we're, the area that we're in and the whole long history of our property values, et cetera, that we are still comparable there. So. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Suzanne, and I just think it's important to note that I think that by taking these steps and having this process done is just an indication that I think it's important to all of us that we kind of figure out what that fair market is for everybody. So that everybody really understands, what it's going to take to get us there and to start these conversations now. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Thank you so much. And also shout out to our IT folks. This is the first time we've had folks join our meeting via Zoom, so that went great. So thank you all so much. All right, I'm going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which Education Services, our Williams Complaint and Appeals. So I'm just going to give you an overview of how this is going to work. I'm going to open it up for Deputy Superintendent Baca to give us a little background and overview. Hold on 1 minute, and then I'll call you up. And then I will give you 5 minutes to share whatever you need to share with us. There'll be a timer. And then the board will have conversation and then make a ruling or judgment. Okay? And so now I'll turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Baca. Thank you so much.
Good evening, President Salahuddin. Good evening, members of the board. So on September 4th, I received a Williams complaint for Westmore High School. And on September 30th, for Jefferson High School from Ms. Julia Raposa. And just as a reminder, the Williams complaint deals with sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials, teacher vacancy, conditions of school facilities that poses an emergency or urgent threat to the health or safety of students and staff, or school restroom that has not been cleaned, maintained, or open. So Ms. Raposa's complaints are as follows. 6 to 7 broken desks with projecting sharp edges were put in the classroom and not promptly addressed. So this complaint was deemed invalid under the Williams Act because this issue does not constitute an emergency or urgent facilities condition. Even though this does not fall under Williams complaint, the 6 to 7 chairs have already been replaced. I conducted a classroom visit on October 31st at 8:45 a.m. to validate. The second item is the late hire of teachers from other countries, and the uncertainty of their visas left students without proper instruction. Neither was I supported by a qualified teacher as a substitute, which should have happened during collaboration. So the response is that a staff has been assigned to the Spanish class. However, we were still waiting for the paperwork to be processed. And as of today, there is a retired Spanish teacher acting as a long-term sub in the classroom. And also in that class is the actual assigned teacher hired as a paraprofessional while we are waiting for the credentials to clear. The third item is that she was provided with a single copy of Pobleana and was denied distribution of the textbook to students. So this complaint was deemed invalid because Pobleana is not a board-adopted text for the Spanish class. The next item is that there is no heritage speaker textbook nor differentiated instruction available to heritage speakers of Spanish despite large numbers. And our response is that this complaint was deemed invalid because there is no heritage speaker course being offered this year at Westmore High School, making the textbooks for heritage speakers unnecessary. The next item, again, is still for Westmore High School. Classrooms were given the toilet paper as a substitute for facial tissues because it is cheaper. So the complaint was deemed invalid under the Williams Act because it does not fall within the categories specified. And finally, the complaint for Jefferson High School, students in Spanish 1 were not issued a textbook. So the students were not provided a textbook at the time because the class was taught by day-to-day substitutes. The district generally does not issue textbooks in classrooms without permanent teacher or long-term sub. Instead, students utilize materials and documents posted in the Google Classroom, which were aligned with the textbook units and the Spanish scope and sequence. According to our textbook management system, there were enough sufficient textbooks available for students in the library. Thus, the complaint was unfounded. And currently, what our students are using is an Apex curriculum, which is A through G approved with the UC portal. And so these were the complaints that I received. And with us tonight is Ms. Raposa, who wishes to appeal the findings as she's not satisfied with the resolution of the complaints. So after hearing Ms. Raposa, the board may choose to direct staff to implement corrective actions or dismiss the appeals. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to call you up to the podium. You can come on up. Again, a reminder that we're only discussing the items that were on appeal for this complaint, and that you have 5 minutes. 1 minute, we're going to put up a 5-minute clock for you so you can keep track of the time. So I'll just wait for that to go up.
And I'd like to clarify that the complaint for Jefferson and Williams was combined in my first complaint. And so I don't know how it got missed and pushed off until later. So it was already there.
1 second though, because we're, just a reminder, we can only discuss what's on the agenda. So if it's not
That
on
is
the agenda, we
Williams
can't.
Act complaint.
So the Williams Act, the complaint that we're discussing are the items that were just read off, and that's what's on the agenda in this complaint.
Okay.
So this is the only thing that we're gonna discuss or review tonight. Okay?
Good evening, members of
1 second, let me make sure you have a timer, just so you have a timer, and
It's
then.
running.
Is it running?
Yeah.
Let's start it back at 5.
Okay, great, go.
Good evening, members of the public and members of the board. Like all of you and everyone in this room, I am here as an advocate of students of this district. I'm concerned about the lack of qualified teachers, instructional materials, and unsafe classroom conditions that are depriving students of their right to education as guaranteed under the Williams Act. My concerns with the Spanish class. 3 teaching positions for Spanish, to my knowledge, remain unfilled due to delays in credential clearance for teachers hired from abroad, specifically 2 from Colombia and 1 from Cuba. As a substitute teacher in these classrooms, I experienced firsthand the lack of instructional materials and disorganized curriculum provided to students. Evidence of violations. At Westmore High, neither I nor the students were provided textbooks or appropriate alternative instructional materials. This is despite the fact that the materials were available. I don't really understand why you would want to deprive students of instructional materials when there's someone there prepared to teach. For a week of instruction at Jefferson, students received only a Filipino movie for 2 days and some disorganized worksheets. These materials were inadequate and failed to meet instructional standards. See Exhibit 3, lesson plan and worksheets provided. Number 3, 2 students wrote complaints about the poor instructional materials at Jefferson's, Exhibits 1 and 2.
Excuse me.
Number 4, a student was assigned to act as a translator and de facto instructor in violation of the Williams Act. See Exhibit 1, letter from student. Number 5, heritage speakers, despite having more than enough students to make a class, were denied the differentiated instruction appropriate in favor of trying to fill vacancies in higher level Spanish classes. This is unfair and racially biased treatment. They should have, just like Jefferson had a heritage speaker class, Westmore had enough students to make a heritage speaker class, but was not given the opportunity. The students were stuffed into inappropriate placements. Student desks pose safety hazards and with sharp edges and jagged metal projections, and I've included exhibit safe classroom safety issues. This is part of the Williams Act. The district's response to my Williams Act complaint dismissed these concerns, stating that students use materials posted in Google Classroom. However, as the long-term substitute at Westmore, I can confirm that neither I nor the students had access to Chromebooks or Google Classroom resources. Textbooks were available, but deliberately withheld from students because the class was taught by a substitute. I don't know how that helps the students at all. Student complaints. The poor quality of instructional materials provided to the substitute at Jefferson elicited 2 student complaints. See exhibit letter from student JRL and from student JR, and also see the attached worksheets and lesson plan. A call to action. I urge the board to take immediate action to ensure that textbooks and instructional materials are distributed to all students, regardless of the teacher's status. I urge the board to conduct a thorough investigation that includes surveying students and parents of the impacted classrooms. I urge the board to address systemic inequities, such as the decision to prioritize AP Spanish over heritage speaker classes. I urge the board to provide timely support and fair compensation to foreign teachers affected by credentialing delays. My understanding was that one of the instructors arrived, was unable to start work because of the credentials, had no income, and was absolutely distraught and left with without knowledge if they were ever going to return. And they were just basically abandoned. They came here to work and they were left with no financial support. And those credentials should have been cleared before they ever got their visas to come to this country. And it's just an extreme abuse of a vulnerable person to bring them here on hopes of a job and then have them sitting for months with no pay. And then on top of it, have to wait an additional 7 weeks for their first paycheck. I mean, what one of us could wait 4 months, let alone somebody that's dealing with the exchange rate from Colombia or the exchange rate from Cuba. Conclusion, it is our moral and legal obligation to protect students' educational rights and ensure equitable treatment of all teachers and staff. I ask the board to conduct a more thorough investigation of the Williams Act violations and complaints, including student and parent surveys and interviews.
Thank you, that's time. Thank you. Okay, opening up to the board if you have any clarifying questions. No? No? Oh, okay. Is there any recommendations for action? I will say that I would like to look into long-term subs and material and how we hand out materials for long-term subs. We can't control when we have a long-term sub in and out. And when it happens at the beginning of the school year, I know it's very challenging. But I do want to if it's possible, to give students materials regardless of who is in the classroom with them. And just hearing more about what needs to happen in order to ensure, like whatever caused that rule to be in place, like what do we need to do to ensure that those issues don't happen.
Clarify. So I believe they are issued the materials with long-term subs. I think Ms. Baca said when it's a day-to-day sub that they are not issued.
Excuse me. Okay. And so just looking into day-to-day, regardless, we can make sure that the materials are in place. I'm sorry, ma'am. Your time is ended. So we're just gonna have our discussion now. Thank you. Anything else? I don't know.
Just one
Go ahead, Trustee Lee.
clarifying question. With regards to the topic of Pobre Ana, Ms. Baca, do you know why that was used in the classroom? Was that used previously, even though it's not an approved text? Is it?
Not quite sure. It's my first time hearing of Pobre Ana. And again, it's not part of the adopted list. I believe it's a novel. So it's not currently used right now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So on, I can just go through these on one by one, if that's okay with everybody. So on the first one with the desks, I'm fine with the response and, I don't feel like there's any action or direction that needs to be given. Okay. Anyone have opposed to that? Okay. On, the late hire from teachers from other countries, I'm fine with the response. I don't feel like there's any action that needs to be taken. I don't know if there's any action that we can take.
Well, I think that there needs to either be an action to dismiss the appeal or to direct staff.
So that's what I don't think there's any direction that needs to be given. So should I just say that?
I think there needs to be a motion to dismiss the appeal.
I know I'm
If-
going through each one, so to make sure, and then, okay, what do you want me to do?
No, I think I'm misunderstanding.
Okay.
Sorry, my
No
apologies.
worries. I'm just making sure
It
that,
also seems that with that second item with regards to the teachers, Ms. Baca did note that that teacher has been brought in as a para while we're waiting for the credentials to clear. So it seems that's been taken care of as of today.
okay. So is there any corrective action that we want any staff to give on that one? No.
No.
Okay. Okay, so on the other one, provided the single copy, I don't feel that anything needs to be done on this one either. Okay.
That's correct.
And then the heritage speaker textbooks, for me, the response, if we're not teaching the class, we wouldn't have a textbook. Okay.
Yep.
And then, the response for the facial tissues, toilet paper, this is not a Williams Act issue, so we wouldn't have anything to do with that one. Okay. And then the last allegation that students in Spanish or one was not issued a textbook. For me, that was the only thing that I felt like the direct staff or corrective action was just on that one. Okay. All right. So if we're all fine, I think with that direction, I'm fine with the motion with that single direction to dismiss the appeal. If I could get a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to our next item, which is the Daly City Youth Health Center stipend side letter agreement. Ms. Lujan?
Good evening, everyone. Before the board this evening is a side letter agreement that was negotiated between AFT 1481 and the district to provide stipend payment to Daly City Youth Health Center employees when grant funding is available. And I welcome any questions.
Oh, I don't have any questions. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve this Daly City Youth Health Center stipend side letter agreement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. The next item up still with Ms. Lujan is a job description update, operations assistant.
Thank you. This is a previous job description for the Daly City Youth Health Center that was updated to better align with the range in which this position is compensated. So some duties were actually removed to better align this position with the salary schedule.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on to our business services, Deputy Superintendent.
There's one more.
Oh, there is one more. Sorry, I'm trying to get out of here. Moving on to our school sustainability leader job description, Ms. Lujan.
Thank you. This is a new job description. It would be a stipended position, one per school site that would support with sustainability initiatives. There'd be one liaison per school site. The approval of a job description will allow us to begin recruiting for this important position.
This is a bad one to skip because I know this is something that our students has asked for a while. So I'm glad to see this position being put in place. So with that, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now moving on to the request for proposals, RFP for development of parcels B and D for Ceremony Del Rey. Excuse me. Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst.
Thank you, President Salahuddin. Good evening, everyone. Before you tonight is the request for proposals that we would like to release on Friday to invite our 2 qualifying developers to submit proposals on parcels B and D.
Okay. So are there any questions? If not, can I get a
Yeah.
motion?
Just one quick statement. I'm pretty excited that we've reached this point for these 2 parcels. It's pretty amazing work to get to this point. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see. Move to approve the RFP.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Any consideration of future agenda items?
No.
Nope. All right, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we adjourned at 9:01.